Hi, my name is Jennifer and I am 33 years old. I have been using LifeWave since April of this year and I have been pain-free ever since. I am speaking out and sharing my testimonial to raise awareness to all who will listen that there is a solution to pain. I know firsthand what pain and suffering is. I used to be a victim and prisoner to my pain. It isolated me and restricted my life. LifeWave has made it possible for me to break free and live a quality life. Now I live my life without limits. As a survivor of pain, from my heart to yours, I say, there is a solution to pain and suffering. No more temporary fixes, no more toxic medications, no more harmful treatments, and no more side effects. There is no more need for pain management because LifeWave is about pain banishment. I have experienced pain since I was 12 years old. I had chronic lower back pain that the doctors could not identify the underlying cause for. From this age, I had been restricted in my physical activities. At 16 years old, I had begun experiencing rheumatoid fevers, and at 18 years old, I was officially diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I did not understand what rheumatoid arthritis was. I did learn quickly, though, as this autoimmune disease took over my life. The aches and the pains in my joints were painful, especially in my knees and hands. My hands would ache and felt like they were on fire. Everyday living tasks were difficult, and it only got more difficult as I lost the strength and grip in my hands. My finger joints began to show some deformity. The fevers were also debilitating. The inflammation and swelling took over my body. When I was 28 years old, I sustained a herniated disc injury that left me bedridden for 3 months. As a result, I had to regain mobility to walk, sit, and stand. The injury resulted in sciatica pain on the right side of my body. I was prescribed codeine and Vicodin and strong muscle relaxers, but none of these helped with the pain. I became dependent on taking 8 Aleve pills a day. The pain was awful, and I felt so hopeless and helpless. I felt powerless and restricted by my pain. The specialist that I had been seeing for my herniated disc injury had told me that I had a 60% chance of recovery without surgery. She encouraged me to be physically active. I did not want to do surgery, so despite the challenges of being in pain, I became as physically active as my body would allow. It was helpful, but at the same time, it did not resolve my pain. My life became about managing my pain from a level 20 down to a level 10 daily. I say this because the reality was that I was always at a level 20 pain on a pain scale from 0 to 10. Pain had taken over my life. I could not do basic everyday tasks like cleaning, let alone going to the gym or riding my bike without struggling. My emotional and mental state were greatly impacted. I felt I was not in control of anything. I became severely depressed and also developed severe anxiety. As a result, I isolated myself in my home from people and in my community. My sciatica pain had become unbearable. I could not walk long distances. I could not drive for a long period of time. I could not engage in any physical activity for very long without having to stop, because I would experience extremely painful cramps and spasms and burning sensation in my right leg. My right leg felt so heavy and tight, and I did all the recommendations given by my doctor. I went to physical therapy, and I did the stretches and exercises on the handouts that were given to me. I went to acupuncture sessions, and it was effective to a point, but it was painful because my injury was fresh. My skin and muscles were tender, and I felt that the needles and the cupping, it felt like my skin was being ripped off and stabbed. The acupuncture sessions were also temporary pain relief. I would go for a 2-hour deep tissue massage weekly. These were painful massages because my body was so stiff and knotted like a pretzel that needed to be broken apart. These massages were also temporary, and it got to a point that even after a 2-hour deep tissue massage, I would only get a few hours of relief, and then the pain and stiffness would return. I used heating pads, ice packs, pain medication, muscle relaxers, pain cream, and Salonpas patches. None of these methods were solutions. They were all temporary band-aid fixes. I became severely depressed, and I did not want to live anymore, because the life I was living was not life. It was death. I coped by comfort eating and drinking alcohol to self-soothe and numb my emotional pain, but it only made matters worse. My physical condition and ailments became worse because of it. I had a thyroid imbalance that affected my metabolism, my moods, my hormones, overall mental clarity. I developed acid reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, and I was diagnosed with prediabetes. I experienced excruciating abdominal pain and bloating with anything that I ate. My stomach would bloat and extend so much that it looked like I was 3 to 6 months pregnant. My bowel movements were irregular and very painful when I did have a bowel movement. In fact, there were many times that I would be screaming and crying during a bowel movement. I was also lactose intolerant and gluten intolerant. I had year-round allergies and sinus problems. I took Claritin D24 every day for years, not knowing what the side effects were. From my long-time use of Claritin D24, I had experienced some loss in my sense of smell, taste, and hearing. I also developed high blood pressure. The night that I had attended the LifeWave demo, I could barely walk. I was crippled. My posture was hunched over, and I was holding my back with my hand to support it as I walked. I was fatigued from being in pain. I was in so much pain sitting through the demo. And I will admit, I was skeptical, because I had been in pain for so long, for so many years, and nothing had worked. And so I was thinking, why would this be any different? Even when the demo was done, my thought was to leave quickly, because I thought, man, I'm going to be stuck buying another temporary fix. What made me stay then, the only thing that made me stay, is that my body was in so much pain, and I had hit my rock bottom in life, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I was not living. I was dying in all aspects. That night, I had pain on the entire right side of my body, from the top of my head down to my toes. And I felt I was near to having a stroke. So I tried the patches because I had nothing left to lose. And I was amazed because when I first sat down, I was cringing in pain. And after the patches were applied to my skin, when I rose to stand, I rose straight and was able to walk with ease. My pain was instantly reduced from a level 20 to a level 2, and that was just from a demo with these patches. I was in disbelief. So I do understand skepticism, because I was a skeptic. I had tried everything, and I had seen many doctors, and I only felt more powerless and more hopeless. Life became not about getting better, but about managing my pain so that I could somewhat crawl through my life. I have been using LifeWave for 8 months, during which time I have seen amazing transformations in my body. And all of these transformations are permanent. I have lost 30 pounds, and I am now at a healthy weight. My posture has corrected, and so now I actually look my height. which is 5'8". All the symptoms of my rheumatoid arthritis are gone, which means I have no more rheumatic fevers, no more inflammation, no more aches and pains in my joints, no more fire in my hands. My chronic lower back pain and sciatica pain is gone. I do not experience any more muscle cramps and spasms in my right leg. My foot is no longer swollen. I am no longer pre-diabetic. I no longer have acid reflux or irritable bowel syndrome. My bowel movements are regular and they are no longer painful. I no longer suffer from sinus congestion or allergies. I no longer experience depression or anxiety. I no longer have the desire to numb myself with alcohol and food. I feel empowered. LifeWave has transformed my body and my life. I feel in control. LifeWave is not a band-aid. It is not a drug. It helps your body heal where it needs it, but you are in control. I had to commit and become willing to make changes in my life, to rid myself of unhealthy ways of living. I had to become responsible. I had to stop making excuses for why I could not do things and why I could not make changes to my unhealthy habits. I had to stop being a victim of my pain and suffering. You see, LifeWave can take away the pain, but the body healing will only sustain if you make and maintain positive changes in your life, because with anything, you are responsible for change with yourself. We cannot expect to get better and still engage in unhealthy ways of living. If you are skeptic, I ask, what do you have to lose but your pain? On the night I experienced LifeWave for the first time, I was asked the question, at what price was my health worth to me? I struggled with this question because I was not willing to spend money on my physical health, but I was willing to go out and buy useless material things that I did not need. But when I actually stopped to think about all the money that I spent weekly on temporary pain relief, I realized that I was spending so much money on nothing but band-aids. Today I tell you that my health is priceless, and I am so grateful and so blessed that I allowed myself to be willing and committed to get better. So now, I ask you, at what price is your health worth to you? Please share my testimony with others. Let them know that there is a solution to pain. It's called LifeWave. No more side effects, no more band-aid fixes, and it is possible for each of us to live a life without limits.